Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Gamefromscratch, and today we're looking at Evergine. Now this is a game engine that is billed as a graphics development engine, but yeah, it's a game engine. It's just also used for industry, VR, etc. But when you see this guy in action, you're going to go, oh yeah, that's a game engine. Now once upon a time, this used to be called Wave Engine, and it was actually rebranded, I think mostly because the name didn't follow the universal rules for naming of a game engine. That is, it starts with UN, or it ends with GINE, or it's named after an Irish poet's play. Those are the rules, folks, and you got to give credit. Evergine nailed them all, whereas Unity and Unreal got half of it right, and then now we've got Evergine got the latter half of that right. It's weird that all game engines seem to have a very consistent name. Anyways, this one is it's an interesting, and they just had a pretty major update. If you never heard of it before, it is Windows only in terms of the studio. So the actual editing environment, I'll show you it in just a second, is available on Windows, but you can also target Android, Linux, macOS, and iOS. That's a big part of the new update. We'll get back to the update details in just a moment, as well as web. It's got a ton of generalized features here, so PBR rendering, it's component-based graphics engineering, completely customizable render pipeline, it's got physics built in, post-processing pipeline built in, photometric lighting and cameras, a modern graphics API, including now there is Metal support in addition to DirectX, DirectX 12, and Vulkan, GPU-based particles, advanced animation system, and more. Like I said, this is very much a game engine. You can get this one completely for free. The key thing to know is that pricing-wise, you're paying for support if you want it, as well as there's a pretty substantial fee attached if you want to have the source code. So if you need to modify the engine yourself, there is a price tag attached. So that is how this guy's monetized, but everything you're going to see today is completely free. So let's go and check out Evergine in action. So welcome then to Evergine. What you see in front of you, this is actually from a current Humble Bundle. I took one of the Cinti scenes and loaded it in. Now, the cool thing about this is it gives you an idea of how well it handles third-party assets, and I would say that the answer is quite well. This is a very convoluted scene with a number of aspects in it that brought in as a single FBX file, and you can see how it worked. It basically brought it in picture perfect. There was one small change I had to make to the material textures to get them to be not like white, but that was just a rendering flag here. Otherwise, you can see the kind of editing environment you are working with. Everything is component driven. By the way, if you want to grab this, this is available in a Humble Bundle right now, and it works with all game engines, which, as you can see, includes Evergine. So it's a great demo. I'm happy that that bundle exists in this world. And this is your kind of default environment rendering layout. There is a ton of functionality for handling those environments. Everything here is component driven. So let's go up here to the very top. We'll take that import that I have away like so. And then what you're going to see, so come on, get small. All right, so here we've got our root scene. We can add things into the scene. It's a standard entity tree of things. So you can see here a number of stuff. So if I wanted to bring in just a simple primitive, I could bring in a primitive here. So like here, and create a cone. And that will create a cone in our world like so. Obviously, you have your traditional 3D manipulators there. Once you have your cone in action, you can actually go ahead and then start. You could, by the way, create things into prefabs. And then we could do child hierarchies of our cone. In addition, your cone has a number of different properties available for it. So you see it's built out of a mesh renderer, a cone mesh, a material component, and so on. And then you can drop said material onto object here. There is a material editor built in here as well. On top of that, you've got a ton of options on the graphical side of things. So I could do something like here. I could go ahead and add a, see, it's a post-processing volume that I want to throw in here. So let's add a post-processing volume to our scene. There you can see a much different rendering effect from our default for the post-processing volume. And then you come down here, and this is where this engine really shines. There's a ton of graphical options available to you here. So, for example, screen space ambient occlusion, I can enable it or disable that. Screen space reflections, same deal right here. You enable or disable. We can have fog in our world. Fog is super strong by default, so let's go ahead and turn that fog down to, say, 0.01 level of fog. So you can have fog in your world if you wish to have so. You have control over temporal anti-aliasing, motion blur, and then, of course, we come down here and we actually have control over the whole tone mapping thing. So right now it's using ACES. I could switch that out to Filmic or Reinhardt, etc. Got a variety of different rendering options available here as well, get completely different results. You also have full control over the graphics or rendering pipeline. So for example, I could come down here, and this is how you would import an asset, by the way. So simply come up here, do an import asset, and pick your asset, or you can literally open up this directory directly in Explorer and drop your assets in. That's how I actually brought in the entire Cinti project. So all of the assets from that folder, I literally just dragged that folder in. I put all the textures into the same folder, dragged the entire thing in, and then once it's all been imported and initialized, etc., you basically just grab your model over here. So example, here is an FBX file of a character, drag that into the world, and there you go. So it's very straightforward bringing assets into the world and working with and consuming them. The FBX importer seems to do a good job of bringing the assets in. And yeah, that's kind of a basic introduction to the Evergine game engine. Now, if you want to get started from scratch, there is a launcher. This is also where all the various different installed versions are managed. You're going to find here there are a variety of samples to get you up and going. So there's a physics example, a nerf example over here, XR, and then a couple others here, another mixed reality one here, digital twin stuff, particle demonstrations, the UI API integration. We've got a straight out post-processing effects demo. If you want to open one of these up, literally just click open, it will load it up. I'll give you a second to load that in. So here we are in a graphics demo scene showing off a variety of special effects available in the engine. As you see over here, again, all of your components are available over here. The coding logic is entirely using .NET. It was .NET 6, at least in their marketing material, but it has seemed like the most recent update. We have now moved to .NET 8. 8.1? Like, it's very, very current. And we'll get to that in just a second when I go through the new feature release notes. So there's a ton of learning materials here to get you up and started. There, again, are some really neat advanced features here. You've got special effects for graphics and compute effects. You can do post-processing graphs for special manipulation. So here, for example, I can load this guy in, and you're going to see here is your render, the screen result. So if I wanted to go ahead and add a special effect in here, so like tone mapping or film grain or something, I could basically come in here, drop that into the scene there, and then we basically connect here to the input. So the input connects here, like so, and then this output, we'll break that off, and then we connect it to the output over here. So you've got this compositor for doing your graphics results, and then we drop that. Come on. Get on there. Get on that pin. Let's try this again. All right, finally snap. That is always frustrating when that doesn't work that great. So let's say you want to do film grain in here, for example. You can set film grain up in your scene, you can save the effects on the graph, and it should apply. So you've got the ability to do a number of the different effects. You can kind of chain them together in this compositing effect over here. Another neat feature of the engine overall. So let's head on over, look back at the release note details. So this is the release for September 23 release, so this is 2023.9. So the highlight new features here are, there are actually some pretty big deals. So they added a Metal 3 based API low level there. This joins OpenGL, DirectX, and Vulkan in the functionality. And the key thing that gives is the ability to target iOS platforms. So you've got iOS, iPad, and so on support there. You got support for morphing animation systems here. MAUI support, the MAUI UI layer is now in there as well. XRV networking module. Support for Windows.NET 8 RC1. So like I said, very experimental level support for the newest version of .NET. And then we got performance improvements and then a bunch of things coming in the future. So definitely the big new feature here is that Metal renderer and iOS support. So that's obviously a fairly big demographic. And if we go back to that launcher over here and you go to create a new project, you're going to notice under there, when you're setting up your project, you have a number of different platforms to choose from: WebGL, React, Android, and various different kinds of .NET installs. We got iOS .NET 7, experimental, and so on. So there are a ton of different platforms to get you up and running on this guy. And the big thing with this new release is the fact that it has that new iOS support via Metal, but a bunch more as well. So again, you've got animation morphing MAUI template available there as well, and performance improvements across the board. Again, this guy is very much aimed at the industrial market, VR kind of experiences, that stuff, a little bit less aimed at game making. But again, the feature set here is just straight out the feature set you would expect from a game engine. They're just targeting a slightly different niche. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is Evergine, the actor previously known as Wave Engine. It's one I've had my eye on for quite a while, and this is a pretty big step forward, because if you're going to support mobile, you've got to support iOS. It's, you know, the biggest demographic. So that's a nice step forward. It is a free engine. Again, only if you want source code or you need commercial support are there premium tiers. Otherwise, an interesting one to check out. You can download it for free on Windows. Again, you can target a number of different platforms beyond Windows, but this is a Windows-only game engine. Curious what you think of Evergine? Let me know in comments down below, and I'll talk to you all later. Goodbye.